I'm making this video in response to some questions that a fairly new friend of mine has. She has a lot more land than I do, and she spends a lot more on hay at this time of year than I do. I spend zero. I forget how much she says she spent. And while I have the 2 horses, well 3, counting Stormy, he doesn't really eat the grass. He's missing teeth. I find wads where he's been eating at it. I can't guarantee that he's really getting anything from it. But I have about an acre. I have lush green pastures, and both Misty and Licorice need to lose weight. Licorice more than Misty. So I'm going to talk a little bit about making the most out of small areas for horses. Like I said, I have about an acre. The front part where the round pen is, and the chickens and the pit, is roughly 1/3, and each side back here is also roughly 1/3. Since I'm not into professional riding and I just want the round pen to work with the horses, I don't need a fancy setup. I didn't need any fancy footing or anything like that. It's just part of the pasture. The posts are all broken fence posts. If you don't have them, but you have woods near you, and there are trees that are known for not riding that well, like red cedar, white oak, black locust, you can use all of those for fence posts, and even char the ends to make sure that they're not going to rot that quickly. I don't know how much this rope is now. When I got it, it was under 15 bucks. And then screw eyes and some, what do they call them? Bullet snaps? I don't even remember what they call them. And I have a round pen. It was under 100 bucks. Just a little bit of work. So, I said no special footing. If I want to ride, to work on something that takes up more room than the round pen, I'll just ride on one side of the field or the other. I will be making some jumps and even some cavalettis, and I'll just be using, again, broken 4x4s, some pieces of scrap wood that I have, and for the rails for the fence, the jumps, and for cavalettis, I'll just be going in the woods next to me and getting some red cedar posts. Now, in order to make your field nice, one thing you have to take into consideration is the habit of horses. Horses generally have certain areas of the field that they will poop in and others that they don't. They do this for a very simple reason. If they are grazing where they're pooping, they have a possibility of getting parasites. So generally my horses will poop along the sides of the fence and all the way around. It's very rare for me to find poop in the middle. I do on occasion, but not that often. Now, since I only had the small field, one thing that I will do is I pick my field. You can see there's a nice pile of poop right there. And if I am going to be spreading the manure, I typically just clean it once a week. If I am going to not be cleaning the field, spreading the manure, because let's face it, manure doesn't spread that easily when it's frozen solid, especially not with the type of spreader that I have. Then I pick it daily. And the nutrients coming from the poop are basically going to be all where they poop. So that's another reason why I pick it. By putting it in the spreader, then when I spread it, when I first start spreading, I spread along the outline, the edges. The next time I spread, I pick up where I left off. And then I drag it. This helps it to break down. By having it break down and having horses closed off, then its parasite eggs that might be in the poop are going to be getting killed. They can't take heat, they can't take cold. So that helps me cut down on the parasites, and also it cuts down on the amount of flies that there are. Now, because of how thick the grass is over on this section, normally I mow this a lot shorter than the rest. If I don't do that, A, it can be hard to pick the manure out, and B, it can be hard to cut it because of how quickly it grows with not being grazed. Because of the mower being broken, I've had to stop mowing about a month early. I thought about mowing again next week on the hope that I get the mower fixed, but I don't want to do that because I normally, when I mow it, it's just to get the weeds down, and then I leave it. So I'm not going to worry about it. Now, when I took over this field, there were a lot of weeds in here. There was Jimson weed that was over my head. There was a lot of dock. You can see the dock there. A lot of spiny pigweed. I've gotten rid of a lot of that. If I was going to be staying here long, I would also be liming the field, which is another thing you want to do. Check your pH. Because of the horses being in here, the pH is normally going to be low, and you can get a lot of buttercups. And yeah, I have a lot of buttercups in the spring. But since I'm hoping to move, and this isn't my farm, I'm not going to lime it. I've done a lot of work just to get it to where the weeds were down. There are certain weeds that I leave. But for the most part, I don't want the weeds in here. I have clover, I have a mix of grass. Some of the grass the horses don't eat. I have to maybe see if I can figure out what it is and get rid of that. That might be something that I mow down. Of course, dandelions I leave. If I have any plantain, I leave that. These are all things that the horses will eat. It's not a problem for them. The dock, of course, I don't really want. And because of not being able to mow, I do have seed heads that I wouldn't normally. Of course, I've got some pokeweed growing there. That'll be dug out. And I also try to keep the fence line clean because of the electric at the top. It will make it so that the electric shorts out. Now, the one weed that I do leave is my milkweed, and that's for the monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies have to have the milkweed. You don't have a monarch butterfly, but there's a milkweed bug. When I was in college, I had a whole colony of these guys, and another bug that eats on the milkweed. But the monarch butterflies need the milkweed. It's the only thing the caterpillars eat. And I have seen several caterpillars out here this year. Haven't seen any lately. I've got some milkweed pods, seed pods getting ready to split open. Kind of like that when that happens. They look neat. Wow, got a whole colony of milkweed bugs over here. I might have to do a video on them and talk about them. But anyway, getting back to the field. I said I keep them because of the monarch butterflies. They need that. It's the only weed that I really don't mind growing that's not edible for the horses. By keeping the field mowed, it gets down the number of weeds. Now, I will stop mowing at a certain time, and normally it's the middle of September. And then October I start putting out hay. The reason I start putting out the hay then is because I don't want the horses, even though there's still a lot of grass, I don't want the horses grazing the field down so low that it's damaging the roots. Last year, I'm not even sure how many bales I used. With everything going on, I lost track. But I went from using well over 200 bales of hay in a year to, at the most, like 130, and that's including hay for the goat. So that saves me a ton of money, and that's why I was able to get the mower that I have. Of course, the mower that I have out here now is actually my husband's, not mine, but that's another story. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, and have a nice day.